Welcome to the Mr. Manhood podcast. In this episode, we'll be talking about not being afraid to gut check yourself. Kobe Bryant is arguably one of the greatest athletes to ever play the game of basketball. Of course, there's Michael Jordan, but he doesn't talk much in interviews. But Kobe Bryant said something that really outlined what kind of person he was. And most successful people have very similar practices. Kobe Bryant said in the interview he was any part of his game that he didn't feel was up to par, that he was a little bit weaker on. He says he would train that part more and more, even up to thousands of times in a day or in a week or in a month, just to make sure that while he was labeled as one of the greatest players while he was playing, he never wanted to be exposed for any of his weak points in a game because that could tarnish his reputation. That could tarnish the Kobe Bryant name. So in many interviews, he did talk about how whatever he said he was weak on, he worked on that every day until that was no longer his weak point. And he said, he spoke about Kevin Durant. He said when Kevin Durant first got into the NBA, he was very easy to guard because he had weak points. He had parts of his game that he hadn't worked on. And then he says a few years went by, and he said he then became one of Kobe Bryant's toughest defenders for Kobe Bryant to hold defense on because he was able to predict at one point what he was going to do or what his weak points were and expose that. And then when he changed it or he worked on all of his weak points and became an overall better player, then holding defense on him was very difficult. The reason why I start the episode off with that is because that was a time in both of those professional sport players' lives where they were real with themselves and said, what am I not so good at? Yes, the crowd and the people will say, I'm a great player. I play I play the game incredibly, but I know I have weak points. I know I have things that I need to work on. I know I have parts of me as an individual that I'm just not so strong at. That's a gut check. When you self-reflect on yourself and your weak points and say, what can I work on? What am I not so good at? What did I think? Even take the other people out of it. Take the fans out of it. Take the people who think that you don't have any weak points. Obviously, that's not true. Everyone has something that they should work on, whether it be in their career, whether it be some sport that they play, some form of their personality. But there will always be some aspect of an individual that you can work on for yourself. And it always hurts worse when someone somewhere exposes what your weak point is, or when someone calls out what you're weak in, or when someone gut checks you about what you're weak in. That always hurts the worst when someone else tells you that you need to work on this. And so with those athletes, they were cognitive enough to say, I don't want to be exposed like that again. Or I don't want the people to find out that this is what I need to work on. So I'm going to work on it myself. But taking it away from basketball, we should all do that as individuals. Everyone has something that they can work on to make themselves weak. Everyone has some weak points that we can work on to make ourselves better people, whether it be in our careers, whether it be in a certain role that we're filling right now. So to take the time to self reflect by yourself and take everyone else out of it, that's probably the best time for you to sit back and say, this is what I need to work on. I'm not so good at this. I can actually get better at this if I worked at it, if I tried. There are people who haven't progressed in life because they're afraid to self-reflect, right? They're afraid to talk to themselves about what they're not so good at, or certain people get wrapped up in what the crowd is saying about them and then feel like I don't have to work on anything else because I'm just as good. I'm as good as they think I am. But then there will always be someone stronger, younger, faster, smarter than you are. And it's only a matter of time before they get there. And what makes Michael Jordan himself so smart and so good at the game of basketball was his game evolved as the years went on. He didn't wait for someone to tell him that you can't keep running in the hole like this because if you keep taking it to the basket, well, then you're going to get knocked around. And then he was getting up in his late 20s, 30s. Well, that stuff starts to hurt after a while. And those injuries take a little bit longer to heal. So then you have to change your game up by yourself. You have to figure out different ways of playing the game so you can still play and have a long lasting career, just like Kobe Bryant did. So gut checking yourself by yourself will always be much better than someone calling out or saying you're washed up now, right? Because you're still trying to do the same things that you used to do back when back when we believed that you were the best, and then someone exposed it. And it happens to a lot of great athletes, a lot of great people in their career fields who at one time they were incredible at something. They were the best at it. But then times changed, times progressed, and they just weren't so good anymore because they didn't change. They didn't progress. They didn't gut check themselves to say, I could do better than this. Yeah, I'm the best right now, but how long will I be the best? No one's going to be the best forever, but you can still fight to be close to the top. So don't ever be afraid to talk to yourself about yourself. That's very important. And figure out what you're not so good at. And if you really care about progressing and living a long, lasting, fulfilling life, gut check yourself before someone else does. Because, like I said earlier, it will always hurt worse when someone else exposes you for everyone else thinking that you were this great player and you're not. Or everyone thinking that you were this super smart person and you probably were at one time, but you're not anymore. You are your longest running project. Get better, gut check yourself, and enjoy this life that you have. See you next episode.